Dun, 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 dun.
12 tracks later, we've reached the 13th and the conclusion of The Reckoning, the newest Icon for Hire album, the 5th in their lineup, and I have really enjoyed this release. As I've been stating previously, maybe this is your first introduction to one of my videos covering this particular group. I have been a fan of this group since 2011 was Scripted. Loved them. Favored artist in my library, and my wide catalog of growing artists, it seems to this day, as I make music coverage more of a mainstay here. An art form that has been a longtime favorite of mine, among others. And I like those other art forms as well, let's say with cinema and television, but music I've always wanted to bring more as a mainstay element here on this channel because of my love for it and its power of expression. Groups like Icon for Hire really speak to what I love about music, and The Reckoning has been a never great testament to their talents, and especially as independent artists who have, by every measure, succeeded. It really impresses me as somebody who's followed this group for a very long time, being detached from like a mainstream label, which is part of their story. I mean, they've talked about that plenty of times before. It's even cataloged in this album as well. And being really embraced by a very strong, dominant fan base with the Icon Army, as we're called. It's been very impressive to see their career trajectory and how widely they've reached people, but just how much they resonate, as talents in the music industry today. I love covering groups like this. Icon for Hire really is a special place in my heart, and I've loved showcasing their work on The Reckoning through this channel. I've always wanted to make Icon for Hire a feature here, and I had an opportunity with a new album, and so far, whether it be the singles or the official album release as it debuted today, I've been very impressed. But let's wrap up our journey of the 5th album with Messed Up. Certainly an on-point name. I'm sure it will fit with the energy of the track, or with the tracks on the proceeds of the album that have had more of a, and this is true to Icon for Hire, is often not familiar, a more cathartic nature to them. Let's see where this album wraps up on. It's been a strong release, so all around, I've loved it. Maybe for you, this is the first introduction. If so, I hope that this particular track speaks to the talent that I've found with this group. And I would highly recommend, if you happen to be in a first impression listen, their older work as well. They've got, like I said, this is the 5th album. They've got a wide variety of other releases and some singles that have come alongside that in the, in between times. I would highly recommend those works. You'll understand why I revere them so much through following that journey, maybe on your own and having that experience yourself. This truly is a very talented group. I've loved showcasing, even though I don't tend to do full-length album reactions that often. I make special exception, perhaps depending on the group and my schedule, granted. That's a big determinant factor. But I knew with The Reckoning that I cannot not do a full album reaction. I gotta hear the first 6 tracks, and I'd love to share that experience with you all as well. So, we're gonna wrap up with Messed Up. I'm gonna go ahead and cue up the track, and as per usual on music reactions, if you're not familiar, I will superimpose the lyrics for you as well, should you like to read along with the message of the piece. Of course, we'll talk about it more after, but those lyrics will be available to you within the video as we go through. Alright, here we go. Messed Up, the conclusion to The Reckoning, and then we'll have to wait for another album, whatever that'll be. But I know I'm gonna be listening to this album, I'm sure, many times on repeat. Much more baseline rock, okay.
Look kids, I got a career, putting dumb things from my head into your ears. Me and my issues, we see the world, turns out everyone's weird. My therapist is sick of me, and I think I might be too. I read something about my mental state, step back and look for clues.
I love that.
What to make when so many can relate. Make this music from my brain, but you won't feel the same. My therapist is sick of me, so what's a girl to do? Throw my hands up in the air, tell my problems all to you. And I'm messed up, but I'm trying to love myself. I guess my head's back on my head. I'm stuck with me, I might as well.
This is a good conclusion.
I'm trying to love myself.
It brings the mindset of the artist in perfect harmony with the purpose of the album, so it feels like a very conclusive track. And a journey overall.
Life is a journey, nothing can hurt me. Supposed to be happy, so we hitting positivity. Toxic, I guess we forgot. When it's so properly, it helps a lot. Everything in moderation, oh God. Hitting rock bottom is part of the fun. Climb your way up, show the world how it's done. Not sure what to make when so many can relate. Making pretty things from pain, learning how to be okay.
I love that philosophy. See, I really respect these artists if you're not familiar. This is exactly why. I agree with every word of this.
Midlife crisis, brace yourselves. Just trying to learn to unhate ourselves. And I'm messed up, but I'm trying to love myself. I guess my head's back for my health. I'm stuck with me, I might as well. I'm messed up, but I'm trying to love myself.
You know, I could see an argument for this track being, some people perhaps like me who are more of a metalhead. I could see the argument being because of the mainstay of rock or the more aggressive energy on the album overall. I could see an argument being made that for the conclusion it should have been perhaps harsher. I like this in regards to the message. I think intentionally the tune was a bit softer in the rock energy. Of course, there's like that background guitar riff that Sean's producing, and it's a good mainstay. It keeps the energy lively. But it's the message of the piece that really feels like a good unifier to the overall scope of The Reckoning, and a good statement of purpose for the band. This is the type of sentiment that has been consistent. If you're not familiar with Icon for Hire, this has been the sentiment of the group on every previous release. There is a dominant self-help vibe, and it really resonates with not only me, but in particular, but many of us within the Icon army. It's just, I've come across many different fan accounts and impressions from, general internet comments and fans being like, your music has gotten me through this hard situation, this hard time. And there are tracks that might be, again, more broad in their envisionment, but there are tracks that are more poignant in this particular subjects they want to give life to, right? Or clarity to in moments of stress or trouble of life. And that's, something we all deal with in a broken world and the state of society, especially these days. This is the world we live in. I don't think you could even argue that 2022, the world in many ways is obviously broken. And, our lives can get pretty messed up sometimes. That's a good name for the track. For me, I like the pacing of this, and that it allows, because it's a softer energy, it allows the strength of the message to be heightened. And it really feels like a good concluding piece, where every message on this album, which has a general theme, it's similar in share for the tracks, this feels like a good conclusion that just wraps everything up in a nice, neat bow. It's very deliberate. I mean, I love the wording of this. It's written very well, as always. But I love that. I guess my head's bad for my health. I like the playful vibe, too, of the style of writing here with this track. Like, it's obviously having fun, even though it's very self-aware that it's talking about somebody in a damaged state, or at the very least the philosophies of somebody in that position of life, while still maintaining that hopeful position of this is where I can end up, and this is what talking about my damage and what I'm experiencing, make my therapist sick. I don't know. But I'm growing. I read this song, let's say for the second verse, where she says, make this music for my brain, but you all feel the same. My therapist is sick of me, so what's a girl to do? Throw my hands up in the air, tell my problems all to you. I know people, especially in the world today, are like, I don't need to drown in other people's sorrows, right? I understand the argument from some people that I've heard, many times, being like, well, you don't need to air all your dirty laundry out in the world for everybody to know. I wholeheartedly disagree with that sentiment. I understand the idea of like, well, I want to maintain a happy disposition. I perhaps don't want my life to be caught up in the dreariness, of somebody else's. But music like this, there's a reason I've stated previously that music for me has been closer in my life than people have. And in particular, it's music that tends to have this more somber, revelatory nature, right? That is more drowned in the negative of life with a redemptive upside, right? Just even the articulation of what somebody's going through and the challenges of life, that can be so cathartic for somebody. So for me, I do see it differently, where it's like, oh, I don't need to hear about your troubles. It's like, but somebody out there might, right? I understand that everybody, might see that, right? Be like, oh, then talk to somebody personally. Well, there are some people, in life that, this is one of the best uses of the internet, right? That you have such a worldwide presence in what you can do and the messages that you can communicate, especially now that we live in the digital age and you can reach so many people. Music like this that is deeply cathartic, deeply healing. There might be somebody out there that is, struggling with challenges that might be resonant in a part or with you and a part of your story. Keeping those bottled up, right? I've not found a value to that. I guess actually reading that and considering it, I guess my head's bad for my health. Bottling up your reality, oh yeah. But your life story, it does no good to you to just, you feel dissatisfied, right? It's like, I can sit in the knowledge of, what I've gone through. How do I want to word this? I disagree with the sentiment of not openly disclosing what you're going through, because I think there's a purpose to it, right? If you can reach somebody that is in the mode of life that you've been in, it does no help to keep that jaded, right? It does no good for anybody who's struggling that you can personally touch or reach. It does no good to just shield that, behind an invisible wall and not let the world see what you've been through. Especially when, you can look back on the end of your life and realize the legacy that you've left is that you've helped somebody through a time of a need, whoever that might be and whatever the need, happens to be in nature. This is why I deeply respect Icon for Hire. I mean, again, I've really appreciated them over the years from scripted, onward. I've been very impressed with the boldness that I've not seen replicated among other groups. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes. It depends on the group, of course, and perhaps it depends as well on the constraints of the industry, which is why I've also stated I respect Icon for Hire so much. The minute that label and artist, in this case, separated, you saw this evolution of Icon for Hire, which was persistent in their earlier years, but still felt, their music was great, but it still felt slightly tailored. The minute they came back on the scene of Now You Know, it was like, okay, we're going, no holes barred anymore, all in, and I respect the crap out of them for it. And ever since then, with You Can't Kill Us in its entirety, Amorphous, and now The Reckoning, that persistence of reaching people to the deepest depths that you can has been maintained. And I deeply respect authenticity in life, authenticity in communication. I revere groups like Icon for Hire for the impact that they might leave. Not only perhaps just reflecting on myself and the many years I've listened to them, realizing what they've done for me in regard to my self-revelations of where I've been in life and in the midst of my own struggles. There are so many people in life that, this is why I love music. Music for me is just, again, it's the most dominant and powerful art form probably that there is. You can touch so many lives with your message and where you've been in life. It's just such a creative avenue to utilize. The legacy that Icon for Hire has left, I'm sure everybody in the Icon Army would agree with me, is one that is truly needed in the world today by millions of people. And there's been so many lives at this point that have listened to, Icon for Hire's music that have been touched, right? I've seen proof of that myself, and I can still relate to my own experiences. I understand the value of self-disclosure and openness of telling your story. So you might feel, messed up. The world might see you as messed up, or, the world might even try to go a step further and say, well, you need to keep your messed up self to yourself, right? I don't need your dirty laundry. I disagree. I love seeing the bold approach that Icon for Hire has taken for so many years. And this track, again, just really, for me, it's a good encapsulation of their vision as a band, which, by every measure, they've succeeded. This is a statement of purpose. Not only is it a good wrap-up to the album, and it is, it's very satisfactory in that, but it's a good statement of purpose as a band. And they've stayed true to this every step of the way. It's a gorgeous listen. Again, maybe I can understand the argument being, well, you're wrapping up the album and the entirety of the piece has been, very rock intensive. I think it's a good wrap up because it's on the basis of the message. Again, it's a softer energy to let the message be strengthened, and I think it works. I do. It's a unique approach to take, but I respect it. I think it is a good conclusion. What are your guys' thoughts with Messed Up? And I'd be very interested to hear again from whatever angle you come from, whether you're a longtime Icon for Hire listener or a newbie. What was your impression of a general track? And where do you feel that this lines up in the realm of the album for you? Let me know in the comments down below. Going forward, of course, if another album is released, again, the turnaround for another album post-Amorphous, it's still like around a year, a little over that. That surprises me because most bands are like 2 to 3 years in regard to a turnaround window for new stuff. Icon for Hire was fast. I don't know when the next album will debut, but of course I'll cover it on this channel whenever that happens. Or maybe perhaps in the meantime, you would like to hear more of maybe some of my thoughts on some of their older stuff. If you're in that position, and I've been making mention of this in my music-related coverage as well, I'm going to be starting a channel as of the new year. I'm hoping it debuts as of the January 1st, 2023 date. But it's going to be called Symphonies and Small Talk. It's very similar to this one. In fact, these two channels are interlinked. This channel consults fresh impressions versus Symphonies and Small Talk, which is going to feature groups like Icon for Hire of music that I've come to recognize over the years, whatever genre it might be, whatever artist it might be, of whatever level of prominence and recognizability. But it's going to feature talent that is established, in my understanding and in my life. Groups and songs that have left an impact on me, or songs I just feel maybe I want, resonate, experience of others in their talent, or just talk about the message at a deeper level. If you're a fan of what I do on here regarding my music-related coverage, or the stuff I've done, for example, let's say with Icon for Hire, that channel is going to be structured very similarly. Different focus, slightly, but it's still along the same vein. It's definitely a spin-off from this one. I can tell you automatically that Icon for Hire, I've got a wide list of artists that I've already crafted in regard to tracks I want to feature and artists I want to showcase. Icon for Hire has been making a number of appearances. Some of their older stuff just deserves to be talked about at a deeper level. So don't be surprised when perhaps if you're interested in that channel, I'd recommend you maybe push the subscribe button in advance for whenever that channel debuts. Again, I'm hoping for the 2023 January 1st release date. We'll see. I'm starting production on it pretty soon. Don't be surprised when there's a lot of Icon for Hire tracks that debut on there. Because, they got so many good songs I'd love to talk about. So many at this point. And The Reckoning is no exception. It's been a fantastic album. 5th album all the way through. I absolutely respect this band quite a bit. It's been an absolute treat covering this album in its full capacity. It's another stellar release from them. Exactly what I predicted. And I trust them for that. I've never been let down by Icon for Hire. I've been very impressed with their work thus far. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.